Hello, Oscar. Grandpa here. And, of course, Moosey. And you've got to say hello, Moosey, to Oscar? Yeah, I'm going to say hello. Yep. He's been pretty good, Oscar. He's been good. Yeah, I've been good. Yep. So he's going to sit. You're going to sit here and be good. Yep. So Oscar, I hope you're okay and having a nice time with Daddy, because poor Mummy's not feeling very well at the moment, is she? So, and I've seen some of your lovely pictures and messages showing how much you love your Mummy, and I think you're so sweet, Oscar, and you're really, really very good, and you're very kind to your little sister too. And I hope you enjoyed your swimming lesson. Sounds fun, and your little sister came to watch you as well with Daddy, so that's nice. And I hope Daddy's okay too, and I hope Mummy's better soon. So we're going to read a little bit more from the lovely story of the Silky Seal Pup. Such a lovely story, and if you remember, they're trying to think up stories to save the Zoe's rescue zoo, and they've come up with a brilliant idea, and Star had fallen asleep in Zoe's arms, and so they took her back to her enclosure, and Zoe couldn't keep the smile from her face. They come up with two brilliant ideas for saving their home. Now it's time to put them both into action. We'll start first thing tomorrow morning, Meep, Zoe whispered eagerly. There's no time to lose. So there it is, chapter 7. Look, there's Zoe and Star. And it says, Zoe and Meep get to work. So let's see what they're going to do. So on Sunday, Zoe and Meep ran to Higgins Hall after breakfast. They couldn't wait to see what the Rescue Zoo's owner thought of their ideas. Great Uncle Horace, called Zoe, pushing open the enormous oak front door. It's me! Higgins Hall was hundreds of years old. It had once been a grand house with huge paintings on every wall, an enormous library, and even a maze in the garden. Do you remember the maze at Abbotsbury when we visited, Oscar? I hope you'll be off to go there again. But when Great Uncle Horace had started the Rescue Zoo, he'd turned every room into a home for different animals. The great white pelicans lived in the swimming pool, and in every bathroom there was a different type of lizard. Great Uncle Horace had only kept the cosy attic for himself and Kiki. Zoe, I'm in the butterfly room, my dear, called a cheerful voice. The butterfly room had once been a beautiful ballroom. Now it was warm and steamy, with trees and tropical flowers growing in huge pots all around. When Zoe and Meep walked in, Great Uncle Horace was standing in the middle of the room, with colourful butterflies perched along his arms and on his head. Hundreds more fluttered above him. Zoe felt something tickling her cheek as a pretty purple butterfly came to say hello. She held up her hand and the butterfly settled on her finger. Look, there's a picture of Zoe with the butterfly on her finger. There's Great Uncle Horace in the background. Wow, very tropical. It's nice to see you both so early, said Great Uncle Horace, beaming at them. But is everything all right, Zoe? You look rather anxious. Zoe suddenly felt like crying. She'd been brave for all the animals, but now she gave a big sob. Oh dear. I know the zoo is in trouble, she sniffled. I listened to the meeting in Mr. Pincher's office yesterday. Oh, Zoe, you don't need to worry, Great Uncle Horace sighed, putting his arm round her shoulders and giving her a comforting hug. I'd hoped you wouldn't find out, my dear, because I didn't want you to get upset. I promise everything will be all right. Zoe dried her eyes as she looked at Great Uncle Horace. His kindly eyes twinkled as he gave her a big smile. Now, why don't you come and see my chrysalises? Zoe frowned as Great Uncle Horace wandered across the room, chattering excitedly about the chrysalises. She looked at the 3 papery packets hanging from a tree branch, but her mind was full of the money-making ideas the animals had come up with. They had to save the zoo. Turning to Meep, she whispered, let's go and talk to Mum instead. She said a hurried goodbye to Great Uncle Horace and slipped back outside. On their way to find Lucy, they stopped to peer into the seal enclosure. Zoe felt even more worried when she saw Star's tired face. While the other seals played in the water, Star was lying on a rock sleepily. The little seal explained that she hadn't felt afraid of the dark when she was in the parrot enclosure, with so much friendly chatter around her. But she'd woken up once she was back in her enclosure and had felt frightened again. She hadn't managed to sleep another wink all night. Oh dear, Oscar, poor Star. Zoe felt so sorry for her. I promise I'll find a way to help you, she told the sad little seal. But first I have to help save the zoo. Zoe Meep found Lucy in Oscar's enclosure. She was halfway up a ladder, rubbing special cream into one of the elephant's huge flapping ears. Hi, Zoe, she called. Poor Oscar the elephant. I love that. Poor Oscar scratched his ear on a branch this morning, so I'm making sure it doesn't get sore. Oh dear, that sounds nasty. So there, look, there's Oscar the elephant. There we are. He's having his sore ear looked after. Zoe waited for her mum to climb back down the ladder. Mum, she said as Lucy reached the bottom, I know the rescue zoo needs money. Oh, Zoe, I didn't want you to worry about the zoo closing down. We're going to do everything we can to save it. We're going to have a big fundraiser and raise lots of money. Zoe felt her heart lift at the thought of a fundraiser. As soon as people saw how brilliant the rescue zoo was, they were bound to give them lots of money. I want to help, she said bravely. I've already got some money-making ideas. She told Lucy about the parrot show and the information sheets. Brilliant, Lucy said, smiling. Why don't you use my laptop to start writing the sheets? When I get home tonight, I'll help you add the Rescue Zoo hot air balloon logo to each one, so they look really smart. Zoe was so relieved that her mum thought her ideas might help the Rescue Zoo. She and Meep rushed back to the cottage, determined to get started. They sat at the kitchen table and Zoe switched on the laptop. Let's start with Oscar. That's a good way to start, isn't it, Oscar? Let's start with Oscar, Zoe decided. Great Uncle Horace had taught her all about African elephants, and she'd learned lots more because she'd spent so much time with her biggest animal friend. She opened a fresh page and wrote Oscar's name at the top. I'll say that elephants are the biggest land mammals in the world. Oscar is 7, but he'll get even bigger until he's about 10. What else can we tell visitors about him? Write about his trunk, chirped Meep. Good idea, Meep, said Zoe, typing quickly. African elephants have very clever trunks which can suck up water and pick up food. Wow, that's clever. Let's put what he eats, suggested Meep, jumping up and down. Look, there's Zoe's typing out the fact sheet and the picture of Oscar the elephant. Would you like to be an elephant, Oscar? Or are you happy being Oscar? I think you're happy just being Oscar, don't you? Zoe nodded. Elephants are herbivores, so that means they eat plants, roots and fruits. Oscar's favourite treats are oranges and bananas. And he likes to be tickled behind his ears, added Meep. Do you like being tickled behind your ears, Oscar? I'm sure you do. Perfect, Meep, said Zoe, writing the last line. Now, what about the giraffes? The two friends worked hard all day and only stopped for a quick lunch when Zoe heard Meep's tummy rumbling. When they heard Lucy arriving home, Zoe was finishing a sheet about Star. Mum, come and read what we've done, she called. Lucy sat at the kitchen table and looked through all the sheets, with Zoe perched on her knee. When she got to the very last one, she read it aloud. Star the harp seal. Star is the Rescue Zoo's newest animal. She likes milk and being cuddled, but she's still very nervous of people. We're trying hard to show her that the Rescue Zoo is her home now. Tears sprang into her eyes and she pulled Zoe into a tight hug. These are wonderful, Zoe. I know that when people read them, they'll realise just how special the Rescue Zoo really is. So it's chapter 8 now, parrot practice. Ooh, what's going to happen with the parrots? As soon as the school bell went on Monday afternoon, Zoe rushed back home to the Rescue Zoo. She and the parrots had a show to practice for. Zoe and the keepers had spent all of Sunday arranging the fundraiser. They put colourful posters all around Zoe's town to tell people about it, and every keeper was planning their own special event or stall. Annie, the parrot keeper, had been happy for Zoe to do a show with Ruby, Rio and Cupid, and had even suggested they have it on the patch of grass near the gift shop, where all the visitors could come and see it. Zoe had been careful not to give away too much about what the clever parrots could do. She wanted it to be a surprise. Zoe ran into the cottage and dumped her bag on the kitchen table. "Meep," she called. She listened, but there was no scamper of paws as Meep ran to greet her. That's strange, Zoe thought. Meep was always waiting for her after school. Zoe wandered out into the zoo. As she got closer to the parrot enclosure, she could hear cross squawking. Meep was standing on a fence on the outside of the enclosure, talking to Ruby and the others. "There you are, Meep," Zoe called in relief. Meep bounded off the fence and into her arms for a cuddle. "I was helping," he chatted happily. Ruby gave an indignant squawk and ruffled her feathers. Zoe laughed. "Ruby says you're being a very bossy lemur." "I wasn't," Meep protested. Ruby opened her beak and did a perfect impression of Meep's bossy chattering. Zoe stifled a giggle. "Never mind, I'm here now," she said, "and we've got a show to plan." Zoe unlocked the parrot enclosure with her paw print necklace, and she and Meep slipped inside. "I think we should have a flying bit, and then your impressions." Zoe stopped talking as a group of visitors came up the side of the enclosure. As they peered in, she felt like one of the animals. She picked up the parrot's food bowl and pretended to be filling it. Finally, the visitors left, and Zoe turned to the parrots. "Okay, if we start with Ruby." Rio gave a warning squawk, and Zoe stopped talking just as the door to the enclosure opened. "Oh, hello, Zoe," Annie said cheerfully. "I didn't know you were in here. Are you practicing for the show?" Yes," Zoe replied awkwardly. "You should use hazelnuts," Annie suggested. "Rio will do anything for them." She pulled one out of her pocket and held it up. With a flutter of wings, the cockatoo landed on her arm and picked the nut out of her fingers with his clever feet. Whoa, that's exciting. Annie started sweeping the enclosure, and Zoe turned to me. "It'll be difficult to have our rehearsals while Annie is here. I can't talk to the parrots in front of her," she whispered to me. "We can't start practicing while all the visitors are wandering around either." Zoe looked round the enclosure as she wondered what to do. Then, as she glanced over to the seal enclosure, she thought of Star and had an idea. "Of course, let's practice at night, once the zoo's empty." There we are, Oscar. That'll be the end of the story for today. And just to say bye-bye from me, Grandpa, and from Granny, who sends her love, and lots of love to you and your little sister Annabelle, and especially to Mummy. Hope she's better soon, and lots of love to Daddy too. So it's night-night from, well, it's night-night here from Grandpa and from Moosey. Lots of love. Bye, Oscar. Bye.